One of the most fascinating and most horrifying case studies in this dark arena revolves around the life and crimes of Jeffrey Dahmer. The name itself is a chilling whisper, conjuring images of unspeakable acts. Dahmer's childhood, as meticulously documented by countless sources, presents a chilling case study in the link between early experiences and later monstrosity. Jeffrey Dahmer's early life began with a relatively normal upbringing, at least on the surface. He was born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at what was then Milwaukee Hospital, a bustling urban center grappling with its own post-war expansion and demographic shifts. His parents, Joyce and Lionel Dahmer, while not inherently malicious, were deeply flawed and ultimately dysfunctional. His mother, Joyce, a former medical technician, battled with severe depression and a growing dependence on prescription drugs throughout her life, a struggle exacerbated by her isolation in their suburban Milwaukee home. Her emotional volatility cast a long shadow, leaving young Jeffrey in a state of perpetual unease. His father, Lionel, an industrial chemist, was often distant and preoccupied with his work, leaving Joyce feeling increasingly isolated and overwhelmed. The parents' marriage was a tempestuous one, marked by frequent arguments and a palpable tension that permeated their home, creating an unstable environment for young Jeffrey. This constant conflict and emotional void were a fertile ground for the development of unhealthy coping mechanisms in a child predisposed to introversion and anxiety. The suburban landscape of their early home, a seemingly idyllic setting of manicured lawns and quiet streets, belied the internal storms brewing within the Dahmer household. Dahmer's early years were punctuated by a noticeable isolation and an unnerving fascination with death. While other children might have been engrossed in toys and games, Jeffrey gravitated towards the morbid. He developed a habit of collecting roadkill, a peculiar hobby that escalated into something far more sinister. In the privacy of his basement or secluded wooded areas surrounding their home, he would meticulously dismember these unfortunate creatures, a gruesome practice that extended to preserving their bones in jars, meticulously cleaned and catalogued. These seemingly innocent, albeit macabre, acts, viewed through the prism of later events, take on a profoundly disturbing hue. His father, Lionel, attempted to engage Jeffrey in more typical childhood activities, like fishing and camping, hoping to foster a connection and perhaps steer him away from his morbid curiosities. However, these efforts often proved futile, with Jeffrey remaining aloof and detached, his mind seemingly occupied by darker contemplations. The woods became his sanctuary, a place where his burgeoning darker impulses could take root away from the prying eyes of a world he felt increasingly disconnected from. The dense foliage and the quiet solitude of these natural spaces offered a stark contrast to the strained atmosphere within his home. Dahmer's behavior as a teenager, including his escalating struggle with alcohol, further hinted at a deeply troubled internal world. By his early teens, he had become a regular drinker, often consuming alcohol in secret to numb the burgeoning anxieties and urges that plagued him. He was withdrawn, socially awkward, and struggled to form meaningful connections with his peers. His attempts at social interaction were often clumsy and unsuccessful, leading to further isolation. He would sometimes engage in strange, attention-seeking behaviors at school, such as faking seizures, which earned him a reputation for being eccentric but did little to endear him to others. These issues, however, might have been dismissed by many as typical teenage angst and rebellion. But, with the chilling benefit of hindsight, they become much more than mere awkwardness or adolescent experimentation. They were early indicators of a deeper pathology that would eventually manifest in unimaginable horrors. His parents, aware of his drinking and withdrawal, attributed it to typical adolescent struggles, unaware of the true depths of his internal turmoil as he navigated the turbulent waters of adolescence in rural Ohio, where the family relocated for a time. The shift in location offered no respite from his internal torment, merely a change of scenery for his growing despair. The case of Jeffrey Dahmer is a powerful, albeit grim, example that the childhood of a serial killer can indeed foreshadow their crimes. It demonstrates how early trauma, unstable family dynamics, and a deeply ingrained fascination with death can, in some cases, contribute to the development of violent and predatory tendencies. The consistent emotional neglect, coupled with his mother's mental health struggles and volatile marriage, created a void that Dahmer desperately tried to fill. However, it also serves as a crucial cautionary tale, reminding us that correlation does not always equal causation. The vast majority of children who experience similar issues, who endure difficult upbringings or exhibit unusual interests, do not grow up to become serial killers. The psychological factors, the intricate interplay of genetics, environmental influences, and the sheer randomness of life events that culminate in the kind of unspeakable acts Dahmer committed are still not fully understood by science and psychology. The human psyche is an intricate tapestry, and while early threads may suggest a pattern, the final design is often unpredictable. The quiet, unassuming streets of Milwaukee and the rural landscapes of Ohio held secrets far darker than their placid exteriors suggested. Investigators, piecing together the fragmented remnants of Dahmer's past, often spoke of a pervasive sense of dread, a feeling that something had gone terribly wrong, leading them down a path of grim discovery. Moving beyond the notorious case of Jeffrey Dahmer, it's critical to consider the stories of other serial killers, whose lives, when scrutinized, reveal similar patterns of divergence from societal norms. One particularly disturbing example is that of John Wayne Gacy, often infamously known as the Killer Clown. Gacy, much like Dahmer, presented a meticulously crafted facade of normalcy to the outside world. He was a respected member of the community in Chicago, a successful businessman who owned and operated several KFC franchises, and, most chillingly, a dedicated volunteer clown who entertained children at parties and charity events. His jovial persona, coupled with his community involvement, made him a seemingly benevolent figure, a stark contrast to the depravity he concealed. The duality of Gacy's life was so profound that it left investigators and the public reeling, questioning how such an individual could simultaneously embody such kindness and such monstrous evil. The suburban sprawl of Chicago, a vibrant and sprawling metropolis, offered a seemingly endless supply of unsuspecting victims for Gacy's sinister activities, a chilling testament to how evil can fester beneath the veneer of everyday life. The constant search for missing young men, a desperate plea that echoed through the city, eventually led authorities to uncover the horrific truth buried beneath Gacy's seemingly harmless exterior. In conclusion, the question posed by the Reddit user, "Are there any serial killers whose childhood actually foreshadowed their crimes?" is one that demands careful and often unsettling consideration. The examples we have discussed, and countless others that populate the grim annals of true crime, present a nuanced and frequently disturbing picture. While it is undeniably difficult to definitively state that a serial killer's childhood always predicts their future monstrous deeds, it is increasingly evident that early experiences, particularly those involving significant trauma, abuse, neglect, and a profound lack of supportive and nurturing environments, can play a significant role in shaping an individual's personality and demonstrably increasing the likelihood of violent behavior. However, the relationship between childhood adversity and future criminality is far from a simple linear equation. It is a labyrinthine path with countless potential deviations. Not every child who endures a difficult or traumatic childhood turns into a killer, and conversely, not all serial killers emerge from backgrounds of overt abuse or neglect, though deeper psychological and emotional deficits are often present. The mystery of how darkness takes root in the human soul remains one of the most profound and terrifying enigmas we face. The atmosphere of fear and unease that permeated the communities where these individuals operated served as a constant, chilling reminder of the darkness lurking beneath the surface of society, leaving an indelible emotional impact on victims, their families, and the investigators who sought justice. The painstaking work of law enforcement, often spanning years and involving relentless pursuit of leads, underscores the profound effort required to bring such darkness to light and begin the slow process of healing for those shattered by these incomprehensible acts.